How do we fertilize the plants growing in our fish tanks? Well, you can buy already made fertilizer tabs from the pet store, but that can get expensive over time. Well, today on Plant Life Project, I want to share with you two methods how I make my own fertilizer root tabs using simple and inexpensive ingredients, and it ends up being much cheaper than the root tabs you can buy at a pet store. It gives you better control over the ingredients that you use, and they can be used not only on submerged plants but also on the house plants that are growing out of your tank. Of these two methods, the second one is my favorite, and I will explain why later. All you need for this method is Osmocote Plus, which is a slow release fertilizer, and gel caps. The size gel cap that you want is 00, and these are readily available on Amazon. Simply pour the Osmocote into a bowl and fill the gel caps one by one as needed. It's very important that you keep these absolutely dry if you are making a lot of them to store. They get sticky when exposed to moisture as the gel cap begins to dissolve. To apply them, quickly push them deep into the substrate directly under the plants to make them accessible to the roots and to ensure that the individual Osmocote pellets don't work their way to the surface after the gel cap dissolves. For the second method, you will need organic potting soil, non-clumping, unscented kitty litter, which is really just clay, Osmocote Plus fertilizer, and an ice tray. In a separate container, mix a 50% ratio of potting soil and kitty litter together. At this point, you can add water if you want and mix these together wet enough to make mud, but not too wet. Or mix it up dry. I'm using some that I mixed up with water but has since dried out sitting in the greenhouse. Take your empty ice tray and fill the bottom half of each cell with the soil mixture. Then add about a teaspoon or less of Osmocote Plus and fill the soil the rest of the way. If your soil is dry, take some of your fish tank water or dechlorinated water and fill up the ice tray, but not quite to the top. Cover the tray with plastic wrap or foil and place it into a freezer. Once it's frozen, you can just pop out the cubes as needed and sink them deep into the substrate as a root tab. Well, both of these methods work best with a sand cap as a top layer of your substrate. This helps to prevent nitrogen from leaching up into the water column and causing an ammonia spike. Well, now let me explain to you why the second method is my favorite. The frozen dirt cubes serve a dual function. Not only are you fertilizing plants, but you're adding soil to the substrate, which is going to improve the health of the whole tank long term. I'm using them in my 75-gallon tank, which already has a deep substrate, but it's only made up of old gravel and kitty litter capped with sand. And I want soil in here because eventually I'm going to add submerged plants, which I actually have growing out of my greenhouse right now. So this is a way to add soil to the substrate without having to tear down the entire tank. And it won't disturb the pothos, which I have growing on either side, which has already grown into the substrate. Well, another reason why I like this method is with the potting soil and the clay soil mixture, the nutrients from the fertilizers will bond to that soil mixture as they are being released from the pellets, and they'll be made more available to the plant roots. And clay is an especially vital component to this process, which is why I think it should always be a substrate ingredient. It keeps the macronutrients, the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, as well as the micronutrients like iron, magnesium, calcium, and many more. It keeps them sequestered or stored in the substrate for when the plant roots are ready to access them. And this gives you long-term nutrient stability in your substrate. By no means are these the only two methods for making root tabs, but they are simple, they're cheap, and they have worked well for me, and I'm confident that they will for you as well. Well, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, and remember, it's all about the plants.